So RBA sports agent Rich Paul embarrasses himself publicly. He humiliates himself publicly. It's almost as if LeBron James sent him out on live television to do a humiliation ritual. LeBron James, La Sassy James, La Sriracha James, La Spicy James sent his mans out on a dummy mission. He sent Rich Paul out to crash out on his behalf, to lie. Call him Osama bin Laden. Not bin Laden, Osama bin Laden. Because that's all the Clutch Sports Camp does is lie. They pay the media to lie. But Rich Paul offs himself publicly. He unalives himself on television for the entire world to witness. It's almost as if Rich Paul gave his own eulogy at his own funeral publicly. Rich Paul gets embarrassed like LeBron James finding out that Delonte West slept with his mother, Gloria James. But Rich Paul goes on national television and tells a bold-faced lie about LeBron James not playing on a super team. He says that the Miami Heat wasn't a super team. But here's what Rich Paul had to say.
That's not the end all be all. I always love a big two. I don't really love a big three. I don't really. People talk big three, but the big three thing has never really worked. And you say, well, what happened in Miami? That wasn't really a big three. There was three guys that went in the lottery, and they did really well individually on their team. So they put up big numbers and had big accomplishments. But when you think about it, Bosh was the ultimate professional. He took a back seat and he played a role in which, because he had such a high IQ and he was such a professional as an individual, his approach to everything is what made that work. When you've seen people go for that, it never really worked.
You stated in this interview that you have told multiple GMs that the big three doesn't work. But this is how you know that the Clutch Sports Camp, which is so ironic because LeBron James isn't clutch at all. But I'm so appalled, no pun intended. But it's funny because Rich Paul was the same guy who encouraged and convinced LeBron James to return to Cleveland, according to reports. Now, LeBron James wasn't just returning to no ordinary team. When returning to Cleveland, they already had Kyrie Irving. They were already in talks of assembling a big three featuring LeBron James and Kevin Love. So if the big three doesn't work, why did you and LeBron James push for Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook to join the Lakers? Remember, it was reported that Anthony Davis and LeBron James signed off on the Russell Westbrook trade. So if the big three doesn't work, why does LeBron James advocate for them? What you should say is the big three doesn't work for LeBron James. And why is that? The big three doesn't work because LeBron James doesn't know how to make it work. Rihanna once had a song called Work, 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 Work. Work, 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 work. But LeBron James doesn't like to put in any work. He likes to allow his teammates to do all the work and he takes all the credit. And supposedly, LeBron James went to Dwayne Wade to learn how to lead. But he must then learn a goddamn thing. Because if he read Dwayne Wade's book of how to lead a team 101, he would have read in the fine print that it says, thou shalt not quit on his team. Thou shalt not jump on another bandwagon. Thou shalt not leave a team high and dry. Leave a team high and dry.
Leave a team high and dry.
He must then learn any great qualities from Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade knew how to lift his team up, knew how to finish in the fourth quarter. But what else do you expect? Who's the friend of a guy in LeBron James who reads a book upside down? Can't even tell you one line from the book. Now see, this is what the LeBron sexuals try to do. See, LePride Parade James has led the LBJTQ movement astray. See, they're a reflection of LeBron James. They have share-like mentality. See, what the bronzesexuals and the media condition and program the masses to do, which is a prime example of what Rich Paul is doing currently, which is they try to minimize LeBron James's teammates, the help that LeBron James has had, so that it builds up LeBron James. So it appears as though LeBron James has somehow done something much greater than what Michael Jordan did or what any other great has done. So they'll try to downplay the help that he had when it comes to Chris Bosh. Now remind you that Chris Bosh was averaging upwards of like 22 points per game, and he helped lead the Toronto Raptors to the playoffs. See, Chris Bosh was already an established player, already an all-star before he joined LeBron James. Dwayne Wade was already a proven NBA Finals MVP before LeBron James joined the Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade had already won a ring before LeBron James joined the team. See, people want to try to pretend as if LeBron James didn't play on a super team and that he wasn't the first player to form a super team. They believe that, it was the Boston Celtics. But who on that Celtics team was ever in the conversation with Michael Jordan? That would be like Michael Jordan teaming up with Isaiah Thomas, teaming up with Hakeem Olajuwon, teaming up with Larry Bird, teaming up with Charles Barkley. LeBron James not only had a super team, he had a super duper team, and he quit on that super team. LeBron James underachieved with that super duper team. LeBron James should have won 5 titles with that championship team. Remember, if it wasn't a super team, then why did LeBron James say not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, 7 championships? See, you can't have it both ways. You can't go into it saying that you have a super team, and then when you underachieve, you can't change the narrative. That's not how this works. LeBron James cheated. LeBron James forming a team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, along with Jesus Shuttlesworth and Ray Allen, and then they had a stacked bench. That is the equivalent of what D-Generation X was to WWE. It's almost like a WWE handicap match. That's what LeBron James was doing when he formed a super team. LeBron James and the media, they have to tear down other greats to build up LeBron James' legacy. See, they're trying to control the narrative. They have to keep regurgitating these talking points, keep repeating the same thing over and over for the casuals and the bronzexuals to believe it. Even LeBron James tried to go on record and state that he never played on a super team, which is a complete lie. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh all on one team is the equivalent of a WWE triple tag team match featuring The Rock, Stone Cold, and Goldust. And of course, Chris Bosh is playing the role of Goldust because Chris Bosh has always been suspect, in my opinion, if you guys get my drift. But LeBron James and the Clutch Sports camp have utilized the media to try to rewrite history. See, the LeBron James cult, they're like that Eminem and Rihanna song. They love the way he lies. They love to listen to him lie all day long. They want us to believe that LeBron James somehow achieved more with less. And that's why he so-called surpassed Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and all the other greats in the GOAT discussion. But LeBron James doesn't deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore because he's played with more All-Stars than any player in NBA history. Not only did LeBron James play on a super team, he played with the Avengers. See, Rich Paul is one of the greatest deceivers in history. They tell lies so much that even they believe it. Just because you got embarrassed by the Dallas Mavericks, in which they always like to bring other players down. So they say things like, oh, well, Kobe lost to the Dallas Mavericks too in 2011. Okay, but compare Kobe Bryant's team in 2011 and 2012 to LeBron James and the Miami Heat Big Three. They were called the Heatles, not the Beatles, the Heatles. Kobe Bryant is a prime example of doing more with less. He didn't have another top 75 player on his team when he won those 2 championships from 07 to 09. It's nobody's fault that LeBron James doesn't make the players around him better, that Chris Bosh and Kevin Love had to change their style of play to accommodate LeBron James. They had to sacrifice because they had to take a backseat to LeBron James. It wasn't our fault that LeBron James got shut down by J.J. Barea in the 2011 NBA Finals. It wasn't our fault that LeBron James got shut down by a pup and Kawhi Leonard. LeBron James, he's always had help around him, even in his first stint with the Cavaliers. It's just he didn't know how to utilize those players because he's uncoachable. LeBron James didn't know how to get the most out of his teammates. That's why he lost in the finals so many times. If Michael Jordan had that same Big Three and played for the Miami Heat, Michael Jordan would have 8 rings or more. Kobe Bryant would have 10 10 rings or more. Shaq would have 10 rings or more. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Allen Iverson, Steph Curry. I mean, the list goes on. The man has so much help. LeBron James forming a super team with the Heat is almost like playing RBA 2K30. It's like changing the settings on RBA 2K and putting your favorite players on one team. Putting created players with an overall 99, 95, or 85, or 88 on the same team.